Hi everyone. So we are going to solve today a 20-mark question, which is about indifference curve theory. The question is asking us, using indifference curve analysis, analyze income and substitution effect of different goods. Now, income and substitution effect of different goods using indifference curve analysis means that we're looking at now three kinds of goods. We're looking at our normal good, inferior good, and also what we call given good, which is a special kind of inferior good. Now, when we start this question, we would first want to define what we call our budget line and indifference curve. Once we get done with that, we can talk about then the optimum consumption point. But what is budget line? Well, budget line shows the various combination of two goods a consumer can buy with his limited income and given level of prices. So if I have the given level of prices and income, the budget line will tell me what are the various combination I can afford. On the other hand, indifference curve is simply a curve that shows the various combination of two goods that give a consumer the same satisfaction or utility. Now, why is this important? Because the point where the budget line is tangent to the indifference curve is what we call our optimum consumption point. This is the point where we say the equimarginal principle is met because the slope of the budget line is equal to the slope of the indifference curve, and therefore this is where the consumer is what we say maximizing his satisfaction from a given level of income, because at that point where the indifference curve is tangent to the budget line, you get the maximum possible satisfaction from your given income. Now let's see this in terms of a diagram. It's always useful to draw the diagrams, and let me draw it to make you understand more. So let's say on the y-axis I have good y, on the x-axis I have good x. We'll start off by first making our budget line. So this is my budget line, and I will draw various indifference curves. One that is below, let's call it I0. One that is tangent, let's call it I1. And then one that is beyond the point, let's say I2. And I'll draw points A, B, and C. And then, for example, a point like D. And I can write here that, if you look at this, point A and B are on the same indifference curve, and point C is on a higher indifference curve. While A, B, C are all affordable, but only point C will be preferred to point A and B, primarily because point C gives you the highest possible satisfaction, which is affordable. Because A, B, C are on the same budget line, they're all affordable, but only point C has the highest possible satisfaction. Now, there is also point D, which is better than point C because it is on a higher indifference curve, but because it is not affordable, we will not be able to consume that point. At point C, we'll say the equimarginal principle is met, which is where we say that the marginal utility per dollar spent is same for both goods, and there is no more substitution required for this consumer to maximize his satisfaction. So that's the first thing you will talk about. So in your essay, when you're writing an answer, you may not need to get into too much detail, but you do need to talk about why indifference curve, which is tangent to the budget line, is the one that will result in the consumer to maximize his satisfaction. And then once you've explained that concept of optimum consumption point, then you can move on and talk about the income and substitution effect of a price change. When the price of a good goes down, we say that there will be a change in quantity demanded. This change in quantity demanded is made up of two things. We say it is made up of our substitution effect, and it is made up of income effect. So substitution effect plus income effect is equal to your price effect. We say that substitution effect is simply that when the price of a good goes down, the good becomes relatively cheaper, and consumer will buy more of that good because the good is now cheaper than its substitutes. And be it a normal good, given good, or inferior good, substitution effect will always result in a negative effect, or in other words, as an opposite effect to a price change, which means when the price goes down, the quantity will always go up, and vice versa, when the price goes up, quantity will go down. So irrespective of the nature of the good, we will always see that when the price goes down, the quantity will go up. Now, we look at income effect, we say that when the price of a good goes down, there's always a change in real income. When the price goes down, there will be a rise in real income or purchasing power, which basically mean that income effect looks at how when the price goes down and the real income changes, you will see a change in quantity demanded, and that definitely will depend on the nature of the good. When the price of a good goes down, the real income goes up. And we say this, that depending on the nature of the good, we will see the quantity demanded to go up. If it's a normal good, as normal goods by definition, we know this, are those where when the income go up, your demand goes up. So we will see the quantity demanded for normal goods to go up. On the other hand, if it's an inferior good, we know that when the income go up, our demand goes down, because a good is inferior means that it has an inverse relationship with income. So in the case of inferior goods, we will say when the price goes down, the real income goes up, the quantity demanded therefore will go down. So we will then talk about the income effect of a price change, which may differ from normal for an inferior goods. For normal goods, you will see the quantity demanded to go up, but for inferior goods, we'll see the quantity demanded to go down. Now, this is the point where we can draw our indifference curve diagrams, but we also need to talk about that this substitution effect and income effect make up the price effect. And for both normal and inferior goods, something which we need to tell is that when the price goes down, the quantity demanded always go up. So what we need to mention here is this, that for substitution effect, always saying that when the price goes down, the quantity goes up, just irrespective of the nature of the good. But income effect may differ for normal and inferior good. However, the price effect is the same, which is where the price goes down, the quantity demanded is going up. This means that for inferior goods, the substitution effect, which is saying price goes down, the quantity goes up, but income effect says price goes down, the quantity goes down. We can say for inferior goods, the substitution effect must be greater than income effect, because ultimately when the price goes down, the quantity demanded is still going up, which means that the income effect is smaller than substitution effect. In other words, the substitution effect outweigh income effect, primarily because the income effect for inferior good is really small. These goods are really cheap and they may not affect our income that much. Like for example, if the price of bus ticket goes down, it doesn't make our income effect to be much larger, and as a result, we will still see when the price goes down, the quantity demanded to go up, for both normal and inferior goods, despite for inferior goods to have an opposite income effect. So this is the point where we can draw our diagrams and show our income and substitution effect of a price change. I am focusing on a price fall for normal and inferior goods, and we can show how when your price of a good goes down, the quantity demanded will go up, showing income and substitution effect. So the step number one here will be, I will draw my budget line. So this is my normal goods, while this is my inferior goods. Okay, so the idea is first I'll draw my budget line initial, then I'll show that the price has gone down for normal goods. Then I will make a line that is parallel to this budget line, which is going to be something like this, and this is a line that is going to show us our substitution effect. It is parallel to the budget line, which is our ultimate budget line after the price fall. I'm going to make my indifference curve that is tangent to these points. So let's say I draw this point from A and B. This is my I naught. So point A here is going to show me my initial quantity. Point B, which is tangent to my yellow budget line, is showing my Q0 to Q1 is my substitution effect. And I'm saying this, that when the price goes down, the good becomes relatively cheaper, keeping the real income constant. So I am buying more of this good because the good is becoming cheaper. Now, if it's a normal good, the way I'm going to show my my income effect is that I'm going to choose my point C beyond point B. And there's a video which can help you understand this in deeper if you want to understand this concept. But this is not the purpose of this video. We're trying to only solve the question. That's why I'm trying to sort of do it faster. So my income effect and substitution effect, they are basically they are reinforcing each other in this diagram, because both are asking us to buy more of the good. Because the good is becoming cheaper, I am buying more of this good. Now down below, I'm going to make the demand curve for this good. So what we see is this: when the price goes down from, let's say, P0 to, for example, P1, the quantity demanded is ultimately going up, because substitution effect says buy more, income effect says buy more. This makes up my price effect. So my price goes down from P0 to P1, my quantity goes up from Q0 to Q2, and that results in me to have a demand curve something like this, which is a downward sloping demand curve for normal good. In this diagram, the substitution effect and income effect are reinforcing each other, and that's why we have a very large price effect. On the other hand, let's look at now for inferior goods. So we start off with our budget line before was, for example, this one. Budget line after the price fall is this one. Then we draw a line that is parallel to the new budget line but below, so that we can take away the income effects. So when I go from the this line, or the orange line, to the yellow line, I'm showing my substitution effect. So let's make an indifference curve, I naught, which is tangent to this. So let's call it I naught. This point A is my first point, which is what I'm buying before the price change. My A to B is my substitution effect. It is telling me to buy more of this good, while my income effect will be in between A and B. Let's say point, for example, C, where I am buying less of this good now because my real income is going up and this good is inferior. So my income effect is actually going to say we buy less of this good. So this is my income effect. From Q0, I go, for example, to Q2, and this is my negative income effect, which is telling me to buy less of this good as the good is basically inferior. Now guys, what you can see also is this, that if I zoom a little more, quantity went up from Q0 to Q1 because of my substitution effect, but income effect said buy less from Q1 to Q2. Ultimately, I'm still buying more because my substitution effect is greater than income effect. And therefore, in this case, what you can say is that when the price goes down, let's say from P0 to, for example, P1, the quantity demanded is still going up, although substitution effect is saying buy more, income effect is saying buy less. But ultimately, because substitution effect is more than income effect, we still buy more. So for both normal and inferior goods, despite income effect to be different, you will still have a downward sloping demand curve, which is where the price goes down, the quantity demanded always go up, and that means it has what we call a normal demand curve. Now the question is asking us about different kinds of goods, and therefore one good that I did not mention so far is what we call given good. Given goods, I said, are different, are a special kind of inferior goods, and these are the goods where you will see the substitution effect to still be saying buy more of the good when the price goes down, but income effect will say buy less of the good. But in this case, the income effect is more powerful than the substitution effect, and the way we define given goods are that these are the goods which are those where demand rises as the price increases and falls as the price decreases. And this is basically a special kind of inferior good where the income effect is more powerful than substitution effect, or income effect outweighs substitution effect, leading to an upward sloping demand curve. Now, in terms of our diagram, we'll first draw our a budget line before and after. We will then draw our indifference curve, I naught, and then what we'll show is that our income effect will be such that our income effect will be asking us to buy less of this good. So in this case, what we'll do is that while point A to B is my substitution effect, which is saying buy more, my point C will now be before my point A, which means my income effect will be so large that it will outweigh my substitution effect, ending me to buy less than I was buying before the price change. So my point C will be before my point A leading to an upward sloping demand curve, as you can see that I moved from Q0 to Q1, my substitution effect. From Q1 I went to Q2, which was my income effect, and because my now quantity is Q2, which is less than Q0, then when I draw my demand curve below, we will see that the ultimate quantity that the consumer buys when the price of a good goes down was from Q0, he went to Q2, which means when the price goes down from, for example, P0 to P1, you will see the quantity to actually go down, because a fall in price is leading to a fall in quantity, and therefore we have what we call an upward sloping demand curve. So in the case of our given goods, we will see when the price to go down, the quantity to also go down, as income effect is greater than substitution effect. Now we come to the last part, which is basically evaluation or conclusion part. Now in this kind of a question, the examiner is asking us to analyze using indifference curve analysis. So in this kind of question, you need to then give a big summary of what you've talked about, and you will say that for normal and inferior goods you will have a downward sloping demand curve, but for given goods you have an upward sloping demand curve. Although inferior goods do have an income effect which is opposite to our substitution effect, but because income effect is smaller, the substitution effect outweighs income effect. While in the case of given goods, the income effect is more powerful, because these are the goods that are bought by really poor people who have sort of these inferior goods to be a major proportion of their income spent, and as a result they will have a large income effect. So the given goods case will have income effect to outweigh substitution effect, leading to an upward sloping demand curve.